Hi everyone, it's Melissa, and today I am doing a tag for Tag Tuesday. I am doing the somewhat autobiographical book tag. The original was from Book Time with Elvis, so I will link to the original tag below. I wasn't tagged by anybody, but Brian from Bookish did this, and he tagged everybody, so that includes me. I'm gonna do it. So the first prompt is, what was the #1 best-selling book, fiction and or nonfiction, on the day you were born? If Tomorrow Comes by Sidney Sheldon, which is like a crime thriller, and the best-selling nonfiction was Iacocca, I think is how you pronounce it, an autobiography by Lee Iacocca and William Novak. I guess Iacocca is an executive in like the car industry. He worked for like Ford and Chrysler. I've never heard of him. I have not read either of these, and I have no interest in either of them. The second prompt is, what are some books, series or standalone, that immediately spring to mind when you think of your childhood? Actually, I'm going to grab some of these books. Okay, so the big ones for me growing up were the Anne of Green Gables series. The other big ones were the Little House on the Prairie series, but I didn't read all of them as a kid, but these were the two that we had at home, and I especially read On the Banks of Plum Creek over and over and over again. And the last one, Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. You can tell this is indeed my copy from childhood. This is another one that I read like continually, basically. A couple of other things that spring to mind that I don't have are like the Dragonlance series. Do you remember this fantasy series? We had a few of them, and there was one in particular, it had a minotaur in it. And anyway, I don't know what it was called. If I can find it, maybe I'll try to Google it. I'll like put it somewhere, but that one I enjoyed as a kid. Prompt number 3 is, school days are the best days of your life apparently, but there you were forced to read some books you maybe wouldn't have chosen for yourself. Which did you enjoy? The only one that really stands out is All Quiet on the Western Front, just because I don't really read like wartime stories, but that book is phenomenal. Prompt 4 is, were you independent or part of a pack at school? Did you join in the reading fads of the day or do your own thing? So pack, I mean, the group that I hung out with were like the honor roll students, like, do you know what I mean? Like the smart kids clique. We were pretty tight, I guess. I don't remember there being any like reading fads when I went to school. The closest thing I can think of is like Twilight became really big, but that didn't get published until a couple of years after I graduated high school. So, and I did not partake in that. Prompt 5 is, as you moved into your turbulent teens, can you remember your first experience encountering sex in a book? My teens were not turbulent. As an aside, I was the least rebellious, like most like studious kid. Maybe that's kind of boring, but I guess I was an easy teen to parent. I don't know. I don't remember encountering this for the first time, like how old I would have been, because I don't really gravitate to like books with a romantic story, like a romantic relationship. I was more into like dystopia and horror and fantasy in as a teen, none of which really include sex. So there you go. Prompt 6 is, what are some of the first kinds of nonfiction you encountered? Now, I'm sure I read a nonfiction before grade 11, but the first nonfiction that I can remember reading was for an assignment in grade 11 where we had to read a biography and then do some sort of assignment on it. I don't know. And I read a biography about J.R.R. Tolkien because of course I did. Prompt number 7 is, whose bookshelf was more fun to raid? Mom's or dad's? My parents were not big readers, so I guess my brother's bookshelf. That's where I got my hand on my first Stephen King novels. And my brother's bookshelf had, I think, some like fantasy that I read, But I like had my own books. Like people gifted me books for my birthday and stuff. So there you go. Question number 8 is, how diverse is your library? And it has like a list of different like genres. And rather than like just list these off and say like yes or no whether I have them, I thought we might combine this with like a very mini bookshelf tour, because I am probably never going to film a bookshelf tour, but kind of smashing it up with this tag I think will be slightly less boring than a full bookshelf tour. So let's do that. Okay, so the first one is antiquarian, rare, or collectible, which I have not. I have like classics, but I don't have any like actually like old rare books. Biography, I mean, I don't know if I have a straight up biography, but I definitely have like memoir and like memoir. The next one is business, finance, and law, which I don't think I have any of. Calendars, diaries, and annuals, nope. Children's books, yes. So on this other shelf, I have like children's and like middle grade books, and then there's also like picture books in my daughter's room. So the next one was comics and graphic novels, and I do have comics and graphic novels back here. The next one's computing and the internet, and like I know we have like mathy stuff up here in my nonfiction, and then we also have like a bunch of textbooks, and I'm sure some of them are related to computers because my husband's a software developer. So then crafts, hobbies, and home, I would say no. The next one is crimes, thrillers, and mysteries, and I do have kind of like thrillers down here, and then I have like detective and like mysteries up here. The next one is education, studies, and teaching. I am an outdoor educator, so I do actually have like some stuff on like outdoor education. The next one's erotica, which I don't have, and then fiction, which like, I mean, this is all besides like the nonfiction shelf and like the textbooks, and I have like a small reference section over there. Everything else on these two shelves is fiction. So the next one's food or drink, which I don't have, and then foreign language study and reference, which I'm sure I do have. Yes, I still have my Becquerel from school, so this is like French language. Gives you all of your like conjugation rules and whatnot. The next one is health, family, and lifestyle, which I don't have, and then history, which I probably have in nonfiction. Sorry, I'm gonna have to move this somewhere. So like I have Sapiens, which I guess you could call history. The next is horror, which I definitely have. So I have kind of like speculative fiction down here. So I have like science fiction, dystopia, and like horror thrillers. Next category is humor, which is kind of sprinkled everywhere. So like in my science fiction section, I have Hitchhiker's Guide, and then like in my fantasy section, I have like the Discworld series. So the next 3 I'm pretty sure I don't have. That's LGBTQ plus books. Like I may very well have queer authors in here, but I don't have books like specifically about LGBTQ plus issues. Mind, Body, Spirit, no. Music, stage, and screen, no. Poetry, drama, and criticism, yes. So I have a couple of poetry collections up here. And then I have all my Shakespeare plays down here. Politics, philosophy, and social sciences. I'm sure I have something in my nonfiction section there. Reference, yes. I have a little reference area. I have like a lot of like nature-y things. So I have like bird ID guides and like tracking guides and like botany books and whatever. Religion and spirituality. I don't, oh, actually, no, there's a Bible somewhere in my house. So yes, we do have that. Science, nature, and math. Oh, I missed one. Science fiction and fantasy. So yes, I have a whole area of science fiction and fantasy. I've got like fairy tales, I've got like magical realism, fantasy, a whole shelf devoted to Tolkien. Science, nature, and math. So I've got lots of stuff here on like nature and science And my husband likes math, so he's got a lot of like math, physics type stuff. Scientific, technical, and medical, yes, we have like lots of technical things. Sports, hobbies, and games, no. Travel and holiday, no. Textbooks, I've already showed you. And the last one is young adult, which is sprinkled everywhere. But as an example, here's the Hunger Games. Hopefully that little bookshelf tour was mildly interesting and I wasn't waving my phone around too much. I feel like I did not have a steady hand throughout that. So my apologies if it was a bit chaotic. Prompt 9 is, what types of books do you find difficult to discuss? Poetry collections, without a doubt. Prompt 10, in what way do your life experiences and emotions shape your choice of reading? Emotions don't really come into play because I'm not a mood reader, although sometimes I will avoid like really depressing books in like January because I sometimes get like seasonal depression. Oh my gosh, I sometimes get seasonal depression. And for life experience, yes, I do have an interest in reading books about like dealing with loss and like processing grief. Prompt 11, in much the same way as our taste for food changes, so perhaps does our taste in books. How would you say your own reading tastes have evolved over the decades? I honestly don't think it has changed that much. I still really love genre fiction, especially dark things. I love speculative fiction, science fiction, fantasy. I like them. I like horror, and I read all those things as a kid as well. I probably read more literary fiction now than I did, but that's still, I think, a fairly small proportion of my reading. Prompt 12. Unfortunately, we all feel down at certain times. Have you got a go-to book to raise you back up? I don't. If I'm feeling really down, I would probably struggle to read a little bit maybe. I mean, I can pretty much read at any time, but if I was feeling really down, if I needed a pick-me-up, I wouldn't read. I would be much more likely to watch a movie. My go-to would be Clue. It is my favorite movie of all time, and it is perfect. I also like When Harry Met Sally. That's a classic, and it just feels good. Or I might go to like a childhood favorite like Back to the Future or Princess Bride or something like that. Prompt 13 is, if you have to choose one book or one author to represent each decade of your life, who or what would they be? The books should be ones you read in that decade, not necessarily published in that decade. So for the first 10 years of my life, I would definitely go with one book, and that would be On the Banks of Plum Creek. I read that all the time, and I really identified with like Laura in the book, and I was an outdoorsy kid, and like just her traipsing through the prairies, like exploring nature just really spoke to me. So definitely that book. From 10 to 20, that's a really odd decade because you've got some childhood years mixed with like your teens and like early adulthood. So I'm gonna go with the author, I guess, that shaped me most in high school would definitely be Tolkien. I read The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings between ages 10 and 20, and I became a huge Tolkien fan. Like, I'm talking fan fiction writing Tolkien fan. I was obsessed. So for 20 to 30, my late 20s, I didn't really read that much. But I would say who I read the most was Stephen King. I did read a lot of Stephen King in my teens as well, but I read a lot of his really good stuff in my early 20s. I read the Gunslinger series. I read like The Shining, The Stand, Dolores Claiborne, The Mist, Different Seasons, which is his collection of like short stories, well, novellas, I guess, maybe 4 novellas. So yeah, I'd say Stephen King probably for my 20 to 30 decade, and then 30 plus, like I'm 36, so this decade isn't done for me yet. So I don't think I can pick one for my like current decade. Prompt 14 is, of course everyone is entitled to their own opinions, but how do you feel when people say reading is boring? And what would you say in defense of reading? I actually wouldn't defend reading believe it or not. I would defend literacy, like, as a life skill, as a way to be able to access information and access, like, education, access opportunities. But defending reading as, like, a pastime, or entertainment or hobby or whatever, I wouldn't defend it. If someone thinks reading is boring and they're like a movie buff, or like maybe, I don't know, maybe they're like a music nerd or like whatever, like, you do you, like, I don't care. Prompt 15 is, what was the #1 selling book on the day of your most recent birthday, fiction and nonfiction, and have you read them? So for fiction, it was The Duke and I by Julia Quinn. That's part of the Bridgerton series, so no surprise there. For nonfiction, it is A Promised Land by Barack Obama. And I have not read either of these either, and I don't think I'm interested in reading either of them either. This tag is a lot of fun. I am also not going to tag anyone because I would be interested in pretty much anyone that I'm subscribed to doing this. So if you haven't already done it, then I tag you. So that's it. That's the tag. Thank you as always for watching, and we'll chat soon. Take care. Bye.